Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Depot's Den. I am your host, Evan DePasquale. Again, if any of you have been listening to my show and you're wondering what the hell happened, I was expecting an episode on Tuesday. Well, I just wanted to apologize. I had a really busy week this week at work, having to work a lot of double shifts. So I just want to apologize for that one. But hey, we're back. I just wanted to get a really quick episode in before we started the Sunday 1:00 games. It is currently, right now, as I'm recording this, 11:55. So I will have this up on your podcast. If you listen to the podcast, we'll have this up right before the 1:00 slates go out, and I'll give you my predictions so you're not thinking I'm lying about something. I'll make sure that we get this up. But first off, I want to talk about just a dominant Bills win over the Miami Dolphins last Thursday. Defense ruled the day on this one. The defense coming up with three turnovers. One of them was returned for a touchdown, and offense didn't really need to do that much. Now, if you look at Josh Allen's stats, he went 13 of 19 for 139 yards. I think, oh, that's a terrible game. He didn't get over 200 yards passing. Well, that's also because he was working off of short fields. That's like kind of one of the things you had to look at it from that standpoint is that, hey, it's okay that we're dealing with this type of Josh Allen. We see now that Josh Allen doesn't have to be Superman. And I think that that's something that was really important. And it showed in the game against the Miami Dolphins. So again, welcome to Depot's Den. I appreciate everybody who is either listening right now or watching on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Welcome, everybody. If you have a question or a comment, if I see it, if you have a question about Monday night's game or anything going on in the NFL, maybe even some fantasy football questions, I definitely might have to, I can answer them, Also, like if you're thinking about fantasies, I think that really focus a lot on your running game, at least for this. Like for the start of this season, we've been noticing, I don't want to say drop off in like the passing game, but also we haven't been seeing it as much as maybe you would like to see it, in past years where, offenses have been dominating. But the too high safety shell has been really important for the NFL. And, we're starting to see it. And I think that it's going to be really, really interesting how teams adapt to it. And I think that they will adapt to it, as we have seen so far. Been seeing a lot of the running game lately. Also, if you're noticing, it's a little bit brighter, kind of like where I am. I'm not using my normal light that I use in my room. My awesome girlfriend, gave me this. She calls it a selfie ring. I'll go with that. And it's just it kind of makes the picture look really well. Not wearing any Bills gear today because it is a Bills game tomorrow. It's the last big game for the Buffalo Bisons. So I wanted to throw some love to the Bisons and their awesome season. But anyways, let me get back on track. James Cook was the story. And I think any of you who have James Cook in your fantasy league, if you're not starting him, something's up, because you should be starting him every single freaking game, because he is absolutely been incredible over the past 2 weeks. And he probably will be really the big reason why this offense is successful. So far, he has been the reason why the Bills offense has been successful. He didn't have over 100 yards rushing, but he did have 3 touchdowns. But if you look at it from a yards perspective, you got to remember the Bills were working on short fields the entire time this week on Thursday because of Miami turnovers and even turnovers on downs on the James Cook, his longest play from scrimmage over, I believe, 52 yards, if memory serves me right. That came from a defensive stop. Ed Oliver. I'll get to the big three on the defensive line of Oliver, Rousseau, and Von Miller in a bit. But looking at, I think we're starting to see the old Von Miller. Now, they kind of have him on a pitch count, which I totally get for a Bills fan. You kind of don't want to throw Von Miller in week 2 and having to play a majority of the snaps, and eventually he's just going to get worn out and get tired. And then when it comes to the time when you actually paid for him, where you wanted him fresh in January, December, and hopefully February, it gets to a point that, hey, we're at a point in time where we want our best players healthy. It's almost like kind of what the Toronto Raptors did with Kawhi Leonard, where they load managed him and made sure that he was ready to rock and roll to start the season, and and into the playoffs. But that's another story for another time. Well, focusing on this game right here, it was such a huge and important win for the Bills, not only because a lot of people doubted them, but also you were going up against a division rival in the Miami Dolphins, and you wanted to show out, and you did show out. You had an incredible win over what a lot of people said were the favorites to win the AFC East. Right now, the Bills sit alone at the top of the AFC East, and it's pretty good. But again, it's only week 2. I'm not going to jump too far ahead. It's almost like the first few weeks of the NFL season, especially like into September and October, you want to almost like take the preseason pledge, because some teams didn't play in the preseason, or they didn't play their starters, so they might be a little bit rusty coming out of the gate. And I think that that's kind of all right, because we're going to start to see more people, we'll see more of a, eventually it'll get to the point where the Bills offense is going to really start to show themselves, show who they really are, and put up those 30 points, because they have Josh Allen. And you know what? We got to make sure you got to slow it down. Do not take the bait so quickly, because I know it's so tempting. It's so tempting to see the Bills team really successful, but I think that if you would just gotta wait a little bit before the season really kind of gets underway, and that way we'll be able to see what we saw. Even though Josh Allen only had 139 yards passing, didn't really run the ball much. He had an over 100, 107 passer rating, which I think was really solid. He's right now averaging 102.4 124.7 quarterback rating, which is near a perfect passer rating, or a QBR. That's what I meant, his quarterback rating. I expect to see more from the offense on Monday. I think that, yeah, they kind of were able to get by because the defense played so well. I think that it'll come down to really Josh Allen. He's not going to have to play Superman, and I think that these wide receivers are going to have a game, and I think that Khalil Shakir is going to be really the X factor for Monday night. The Jaguars are down a lot of people in the secondary. I think that the offensive line will have their hands full with Josh Allen, not Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen that sometimes people said was the better Josh Allen, but no, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into that. But I think that you're facing a team that's desperate here with the Bills. You're facing a team that is 0-2, that probably should have won one, if not both of their games. They have a really great quarterback. I think that if you look at it from that standpoint, is that you want to play just as desperate if you're the Bills. Don't like be throwing, ridiculous Will Levis type throws, but you want to be able to focus on making sure that you don't really, I don't want to say playing not to lose, but you're really aren't in a situation where that you are going to possibly end up getting blown out or something like that. I think that we're at a point where it's early in the season, and I think that if you really think about it, the Bills don't need to play desperate, but your defense is going to be going up against a team that is desperate. All right. I see a couple people watching. If you have any questions that you want me to answer about the Bills game against Jacksonville or whatever's going on, I'm willing to answer it. The Bills will be without Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson. However, Bills head coach Sean McDermott did say that he is not going to put Bernard on injured reserve. So that means he would miss 4 games automatically. So there could be a possibility that Bernard could possibly be back in time. So what I've heard is just it was a strained pectoral muscle that he had, which caused him to leave the game. And that extra time between going from a game on Thursday night to now a game on Monday night, they had 11 days off, and I think that that really is helping the Bills get healthy because I feel like Dwan Smoot and Javon Solomon are going to be able to play. I haven't heard anything from like the Bills injury report. I mean, I can I can check their PR department as of right now. Yeah, just the only 2 players that have a game status for Monday night is Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson. Everybody practiced besides the 2 in full that were on the injury report. That includes Josh Allen, Ty Johnson, Quentin Morris, Dwan Smoot, Javon Solomon, Casey Toohill, and Mitch Trubisky. Solomon and Smoot were limited on Thursday and Friday and practiced in full on Saturday. So they will be good to go. We'll see the Dwan Smith and Javon Solomon playing a Bills uniform for the first time this season. So that's a good thing, and especially because they're on the defensive end, that allows you to get a more rotation, and I think that now makes healthier legs for a Greg Rousseau or an AJ Epinesa so they can be able to get after the passer. And I really think that we will see a hungry, and I think that they will get after Trevor Lawrence. He got sacked 4 times last week against the Browns, and Myles Garrett obviously is a stud, and I think that we're looking at a really, really this defensive line is going to eat, because I think that the Jaguars offensive line is not as strong as say the Bills offensive line. Now they Josh Allen didn't give up any sacks or didn't get sacked at all last week. I think he's been over the past few years, he's been one of the most least sacked quarterbacks. Now that does have to do with the fact that he knows how to scramble out of the pocket and run the ball. But I expect to see a lot from the Bills receiving core on Sunday. Excuse me, Monday. Jeez. You got cornerback Tyson Campbell will not be playing, so you possibly have a rookie going up against a Khalil Shakir or a Dalton Kincaid or a Kyer Elam type player. I think that that's going to be really the key for Monday's game. I am really expecting big things from the receivers. I'm always expecting big things from the receivers. You have Josh Allen on your roster, and that is going to be the reason why you are still in the race for a possible division title and maybe even make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Again, like I said, it's September 22nd. I'm not thinking into January or into February, possibly. That's not my thought process right now. But I will say, if the Bills do want to get to the Super Bowl, or at least win the AFC East for the 5th straight season, they will have to be their receivers have to step up. And, you lost Gabe Davis. I think that he could possibly have a big game, but I have a feeling more so I would think that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have the bigger game from the receiving core. Christian Kirk has not shown me anything. Evan Ingram is out for this game with a hamstring injury. And Gabe Davis, he's probably going to be lined up against Christian Benford or Rasul Douglas on the outside. And that's what's going to be the big issue. I think what really is who we're going to see eat on the Jacksonville side of the ball is we're going to see Travis Etienne really show out. I think that's what's really going to happen is Etienne is going to really have a good game. And Devon Achane, he had a good game against the Bills on Thursday night. I think he got 96 yards rushing. So the running game, they're able to stop the running game, but don't be surprised if you're seeing like Travis Etienne run for close to, if not more than 100 yards rushing. My prediction for this game, I think that this is totally different from when the Bills played them in London last year. You had Tre'Davious White was out. Kaiir Elam had to start at cornerback. It was a game where you didn't have Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver didn't play, and then you ended up losing Matt Milano. I think that was one of the reasons why Jacksonville won the game was because early in the game, the Bills lost a lot of their key players on defense. So that's what I expect. I expect a strong showing. I expect a sack from either Ed Oliver or Greg Rousseau. Vaughn might get one. I'm going to expect not because he's kind of on a pitch count, which is kind of not surprisingly. So I'll say that Ed Oliver or Greg Rousseau with that big three on the defensive line will get a sack. The Bills will win on Monday Night Football and improve to 3-0 and still stay atop the AFC East. All right, now to wrap up the rest of this episode, and thank you for all who have listened. If you haven't listened, I'll make sure that this is up before the 1 o'clock show. And let's get some NFL music going. All right. So I kind of already had the Jets beating New England on Thursday Night Football. The Patriots are just kind of a dumpster fire right now. So what are you going to do? I'm going to pick the Browns over the Giants. I have not been impressed with Daniel Jones, and unfortunately, it's going to cost Brian Daboll his job. And I think that Daboll is a really good coach, and if he gets a competent quarterback, he's going to win Coach of the Year again, like he did in his first season, where the Giants weren't expected to do much, and they ended up making the playoffs. So the Browns over the Giants. I have the Packers over the Titans. Will Levis I feel like he's going to do something that's just really, really dumb, like he's done the past couple weeks. And I believe that Malik Willis will get the start. I don't think they want to. I wouldn't throw Jordan Love out there right away after that injury in Week 1. And the Packers are gonna go to 2-1, and I'm gonna pick the Packers over the Titans. Colts and Bears. This was a tough one. I think that I went with the Colts on this one because even though both of their offenses looked really bad last week, I think that it's at home, and Anthony Richardson just always looks better when he's playing at, I think it's Lucas Oil Stadium still, where the Colts play. So I'm going to go with Indianapolis over the Bears. This was my really tough one. I picked the 49ers to beat the Vikings last week. I was wrong. I went 8-8 last week on my picks. So it's sort of obviously a 500 look. Or if you want to count the Bills, then we could say 9-8. So we'll go with 9-8 for last week. This was a tough one, but I'm going with the Texans on this one. I think that right now we're just looking at who has the better offense, and the Vikings are no slouch right now. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans on this one. Also kind of want to get the Vikings to have some losses because of the fact that the Bills hold the Vikings second round draft pick. The Eagles have not really, besides that week 1 game, they have not really impressed me. So I'm going to go with the Saints over the Eagles. They look good in their matchup over the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints, and they're going to improve to 3-0. I got the Chargers over the Steelers. I do not care that the Steelers are 2-0. They are probably the luckiest 2-0 team right now. They have not impressed me at all whatsoever. I think that I'm going to go with the Chargers over the Steelers in this game. Raiders, Panthers, it's easy. The Raiders are going to win this game. The Panthers might be the worst team in the NFL and might be having the number 1 pick yet again. And it's unfortunate that Bryce Young has kind of been thrown into this situation. So hopefully he can get back and, hopefully he can learn and become an even better quarterback. All right. Miami, Seattle. I'm picking the Seahawks in this one. Skylar Thompson does not scare me. Tua is going to be out for a very long time. So I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks over the Miami Dolphins. Ravens and Dallas. The Ravens are 0-2, shockingly. I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Dallas Cowboys. That's just, the Cowboys looked shook, and they let up a lot of yards on the ground to Alvin Kamara against the Saints, and that's what I'm going to go with. I am going to go with the Ravens over the Dallas Cowboys. The 49ers over the Rams. This is the type of game where it's just like everybody's hurt. Puka Nakua's hurt. Cooper Kupp is hurt. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and now George Kittle is out. So I think that the 49ers are going to win just based off of they still have better weapons at skill positions. Brandon Ayuk is going to have to step up and show that he deserves the money that he was paid. This was a tough one. Cardinals and Lions. I had the Cardinals losing last week. They looked impressive over the Rams. I'm going to pick Arizona to win this game over the Detroit Lions. I think that the Arizona Cardinals have looked really impressive, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have another big game, and that's going to be that. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong on that one, but I went with my gut, and I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals over the Lions. Sunday Night Football. We got the Chiefs and the Falcons. The Chiefs, until really you prove me otherwise, the Falcons have not looked that impressive. I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Falcons in this one. They will go to 3-0. And the Falcons can still be a good team, but I think they might be a wild card team. I don't know if they'll win the division because I think the Buccaneers are better than them. We'll have to see later in the season. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Falcons. Bengals, Commanders. The Bengals will get their first win on Monday Night Football. Most of you probably won't be watching that game because you'll be watching the Bills game. Remember, it's a doubleheader, so the Bills will be playing at 7:30, and so yeah, we'll dive into that coming up on Tuesday. We'll make sure Tuesday. I will make sure that we'll have an episode of Depot's Den up, and we'll be reviewing obviously the Bills game and obviously all the games from around the NFL, and we'll see how it goes. And I think we're going to be, hopefully I'm better on my picks this week than I was last week. I was just a tad over 500. And we'll even get into some Sabres talk. Because I think that now that we gotten to the point, the Sabres just had their first preseason game, looked dominant, and hopefully that leads to, okay, there's more coming. So hopefully, fingers crossed for the Sabres fans. We'll talk about that. We'll try to get into that next week. We'll talk a little Sabres. I know they have a preseason. Their second preseason game is actually on Monday at 5 o'clock. So it's basically a sports thunder. You got the Sabres preseason, and then you've got the Bills game literally right after. So going to be exciting week for Buffalo sports. So that's going to do it for this episode of Depot's Den. Appreciate everybody watching. I promise I will be better about making sure I get a podcast up before the start of this of the week, before Thursday night. I kind of got a little busy with work. So that's going to do it for this episode of Depot's Den. I have been Evan DePasquale, and we will see you next time here on Depot's Den.